Hello, everybody, and welcome back to First Four or More. And that is the show where we talk about shows, as in not music.
So
Yeah.
meta.
Yeah.
Netflix
And,
shows mostly, right?
Yes. Well,
No,
whatever.
We did
whatever.
the Orville.
We do whatever is interesting of the two shows we've touched so far. And so
Okay.
to make this more interesting, the goal is to kind of cover the first 4 episodes of it and kind of let you
decide,
know.
like, do you want to go more?
Yeah, should we keep going or not?
And then depending on how we feel, we'll go more or not. But really, we want to kind of like cycle through a bunch and just get your general feelings on what you feel about the show, what you liked about it. As we cover, there's going to be spoilers. So
Yeah, we're just going to talk
Right.
about everything. So
if you haven't seen it, you should watch it and then, join us. Let us know how you felt after hearing what we had to think about it. But before we get into
or
it,
listen to us first and then be like, oh, that sounds like an interesting show, and then go watch it.
maybe
Or,
like
fun game, make a comment and then see if we said the same thing and if we did drink.
Yeah.
Yes. Watch it like as we're going through.
Okay, so before we like really jump into that, let's just take a couple seconds to do some housekeeping stuff because
This is me brooming.
yep, there is the Grind to 1,000 subscribers contest we have running right now, and what that means is if you subscribe to the channel, you like the video, and you will leave a comment in the box below.
Leave it in
Here.
my box.
You enter into a raffle, which basically we're gonna draw some prizes. First place is gonna get $100 of Amazon money, plus you can request a review with whoever you want from the channel on it. Second place is going to be $50 plus a review. Third place is gonna be $25 plus a review, and then
And fourth place
And
is
if-
no fourth
And
place.
if we make it to 1,000 subscribers before or by, I guess, February 20th,
yes,
there will be 2 more $25 subscriber.
$25
Winners.
people, yeah. So that's just what we're about, and we're just trying to get back because we love comments so much. And for every video that you comment on and you hit that like button on, you
Do
get
it.
additional entries into the raffles. I put a shit ton of work into going through every single comment
He
and
has.
putting them into a file. And you see the proof in the pudding because in the description you'll see the request list, and that's every request that we've ever gotten on the channel. To gotten that, I had to go through it all. You can go validate and look for them in the different comments if you want to prove it or not, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to show you that we're real about that shit. Okay, that's
you can
enough
start
of that.
requesting TV shows too.
Yeah,
Ooh,
because
yeah.
4 episodes might not take very long to do, depending on the length of the show. Or,
Yeah,
right.
these are just like 20-minute episodes, so it's
Oh, yeah.
pretty quick.
So let's just get into it then. Somebody want to introduce the show?
So this show is called The End of the Fucking World.
Like
Yeah.
literally.
Enjoy
Yeah.
saying.
And so today we'll talk about season 1, episode 1.
And this is a Netflix original.
Yep.
It
Yes.
is a British dark comedy. Charles Foreman wrote the graphic novel, which is a comic,
Yes,
The End of the Fucking World.
Yeah, that's actually interesting information. Do you recommend this graphic novel?
I've never read it, but it got a TV show made out of it,
I mean,
so it's probably good.
Yeah, I would say
Right?
so. Yeah, I mean,
When
if,
people
I've
liked it.
never read it, but if you were into reading those
How
types of
about let's flip
books-
this? If you guys have read it before we get into this episode and start getting lost, let us know if the graphic novel's dope or not,
Yeah.
and if we should check it out.
Okay.
I'm open-minded enough to do this graphic novel thing. So in our experience, the best way I think we can approach this thing is run through parts of the episode, debate, run through, discuss, and then
Talk
we'll just
about it.
get through it, and then we'll just leave like general thoughts. Now, if you've, we want this to still be whatever. So if you're watching along and you feel like blah 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 whatever, good or bad, I know that sounded negative.
Someone's
but
just gonna write blah 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 blah.
all right, do whatever you gotta do, but just comment. I love that shit. I read everyone, answer every comment. So
Yeah.
let's start this off, and it starts off with James, our male protagonist, because there's like 2 main protagonists.
Yep.
And he's sitting there, and he's like, "I'm James. I'm 17, and I'm pretty sure I'm a psychopath."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Then you see him walking like super emotionlessly, like flat and like lifeless and shit.
Which is basically his entire character throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Just
Yep. And then you kind of like he's commenting on stuff, like you see him flash back to how his dad's a jerk and his dad's like telling him some lame joke.
Well, he talks about when he was 8 years old, he lost his sense of humor, or he realized he didn't have one, I guess.
right.
And then because his dad was saying some lame joke, and he was just like he just wanted to like punch him.
Yeah, which
In
is
the
like my
face.
dad's the worst.
Yeah.
Also, we should point out that this kid is like, he is the stereotype kind of loser, geeky, nerdy,
Emo
not
kid.
like
Yeah.
popular looking kid. You know,
Like,
like
awkward, sits in a
yeah.
corner by himself.
he
and-
is the weird kid.
And mumbles to himself.
Yes.
Like he's Tobey Maguire.
Well said, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay.
End of the day.
And then he talks about when he's 9 years old. So the following thing is,
Yeah.
and then he talks about how he just went and stuck his hand in the deep fryer that his dad
but
had
what's
bought.
also interesting, just to add to that, is that he kind of has this almost loathful disdain for how his dad bought this to be like the scummy Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, right away, this show got layers like Shrek and the Onions. And I'm interested because, like, I end up watching each of the episodes twice. So I watch it like the first time for like shits and giggles, watch it, and then I write out the plot. So when you really watch it the second time, there's a lot of stuff you're gonna probably miss the first time. Because another thing to comment is, like, all that we talked about that happened there may have played out in like less than a minute.
Yeah.
Like, it was fast. It's so
Yeah.
like chop, 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 chop.
Yeah.
That it's like it's
they're really
good.
short episodes, but there's a lot of content packed into them.
Yeah.
Not a wasted freaking moment.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
usually the British shows are like that. So if you recommend good ones, I'm down. So then James puts his hand in the deep fryer, and then
Just so that he could feel something.
then you
Yeah.
see him walking with a cat as he's describing how he took
In a box.
he took the neighbor's cat, and he
it
probably
probably
had
had
a
a
name.
name.
And then he
And he
proceeded
fucking,
to
wow,
end
slices
it was
everything.
it was very blunt and emotionless and raw, like almost like he's playing into, like, he googled what is a psychopath and he's living out the characteristics
That's
of
kind
it.
of what I was getting like the
Right.
feeling for too, like as well. It's like he's doing all of the things that should be done because he kind of wants to be, or and he just feels like he doesn't fit in, so he's gonna just self-identify as a psychopath and then just go forth. And I think that I think a psychopath probably doesn't realize it.
and
I'm also like I'm seeing a lot of Dexter. I don't know if you guys watch Dexter, but like one of the first things that you find out about Dexter as a kid is that his dad finds this graveyard full of animal bones, right? And
well,
it's
that is
like-
something that they say that like psychopaths like
Yeah.
do start off like killing animals and stuff like
And
that.
I just want to like throw out there, at least, I think all of us are in the same place. We've watched the first 2 episodes at this point because what we're recording tonight, and I've not seen anything past it. So I feel like there's a certain degree of speculation we can have and whatnot. So we'll see later on if we're right. So any of our wild theories, for those of you who have finished the series, just keep in mind we have only gotten to the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
So we may spoil it for you, but please don't spoil it for us.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah.
But you chose to see our spoilers. So we see, because there's a couple of things, like as you said that right there, it got my noggin going, and I was like, yo, there's a couple of moments splashed in where he shows clear empathy,
Yeah.
real empathy, and so he could not be a real psychopath. And I'm
No.
gonna point it out as we get there throughout the plots.
Okay.
But I thought it was super like interesting. So then he kind of shows like a little scene of all the animals he's killed. He remembers everyone.
Yep.
So that's
you
interesting.
see them like being counted up as like birds
So,
and dogs.
he's
and-
very meticulous. He's playing that out. We see him sitting at the lunch table by himself, as Bonnie had previously described, literally the embodiment of that weirdo in the corner with his headphones on and black everything.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of describing how, like, high school's beneath him, and it's an interesting place for observation, and he has this desire to kind of move up his killings to something more interesting.
Something bigger.
And
he
then
wants to hunt the most dangerous game.
Alyssa, well, we don't know her name yet, but girl
Yeah.
shows up and is like, I've
I've
like,
seen you skate.
you're pretty shit. And he's like, fuck off. And then Alyssa flashes over the screen. And then we just cut in like to her. Just fuck that. Now we're on her. So she's lying down, kind of describing how she gets lost in the skies, feels disconnected, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Kind of sounds like whatever. Like she's clearly got some issues. Then
Well, I think it's the only place that she can really escape, you know? Like, I think she feels, like, left out and weird at school, and I think that she feels, like, ostracized at home, and I think that like, she doesn't feel like she fits in anywhere.
This girl is basically April from the first couple seasons of Parks and Recreation.
yeah, I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
but we will definitely have a lot to talk about her life, I imagine. And then some lady comes in, as we don't know who she is quite so yet. Your presence is required, young lady. And then she's just like, why are you speaking like Downtown Abbey?
Downton.
Downton. See, I don't know what that is. You guys just put me in my place.
Yeah.
And then we realize this is her mom, and she's dating this kind of rich scumbag type who clearly doesn't want her around.
Tony.
Who you fucking hate like the second you see
he's
him.
just
You're like,
awful.
fuck this guy.
And her
He's so
mom
skeezy.
seems very like passive. He ignores her. She describes how like he made like an inappropriate comment, so she threw a chicken Kiev at him.
That she should
She
get
should
a bigger bra.
Yeah.
And then
So he's obviously checking her boobs out,
Yep.
and then
so it's an
Which is
inappropriate
weird.
comment.
yeah.
And then so she threw a chicken Kiev at him, which I thought was funny. And then you can see that the mom's kind of like ignoring it. And then she describes her dad a bit, who's bounced out when she was 8. This free spirit, can't be held down. And we find out at this point that he sends her a birthday card every year.
And she idolizes the guy.
Yeah.
Now, having seen the first 2 episodes and I'm like reading through this a bit, it's almost like, man, they literally use every fucking second of the show to foreshadow, explain, and the actual quality of storytelling from everything I've seen from dudes like Nerdwriter describing how to do this right. These guys are on point.
Yeah,
That's
for
all I'm
sure.
trying to say.
It's really clever.
Mm-hmm.
And then we
And
find
then we
out,
kind of pan back to.
well, she doesn't trust folk who fit in.
Yeah.
There's something she says, and then we pan back
Yeah.
to school because
when
it's
she's
important.
like sitting in the cafeteria.
She's with a bunch of girls. They're all like texting and shit. And then she gets a text from a girl at the table. She like spazzes the fuck out. Like,
I really like this part 'cause she's like, "Are you serious? Like I'm right here. Like I'm here."
She's just
and
like,
the girl doesn't understand why she's getting mad. Like, phone.
And
Yeah.
then she picks it up and she like smashes that shit, which I mean she like smashes it, explodes kind of is the feeling. And then she just kind of like walks over to James, and as she's like, if you think about it, like she's describing it doesn't fit in, shows these normies, looks over and sees the weirdo. It's like such effective use of storytelling to really get so much told in like no time at all.
Right.
I was very blown away.
Yeah.
And so you get these 2 characters, like, right? Like, one is like your stereotypical rebellious, hormonal, angry teenager, trouble at home, doesn't fit in at school,
Yep.
looking for kind of like the guy to pull her out of this. And the other guy is just like emotionless, feelingless, wants to kill something, and you kind of see how they gravitate towards each other.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird.
Cool.
So then we're back to like that original scene where Alyssa gets introduced to the show. And then we can kind of both hear James and Alyssa's thoughts this time as they're interacting, since we got it the first time in the main set. She kind of is into him, and he wants to kill her because she's the new girl, and she would make a suitable candidate. And then it cuts
But
to...
I think it's interesting too to like note that she also, she's also lying. She never saw him skate.
Right.
And
Oh, you're right.
And I think it's interesting that like right away that she can just be so like cocky and like fake that sense of like confidence and like be able to just kind of get that across, and
Yeah.
she's just kind of hoping that her lie kind of
sticks.
it
And
kind of works.
The other thing that's cool about him, right, is that he's still in a phase where he's like observing and kind of he lets, and you learn more of this as the show goes on, but he just kind of lets things come to him, right? Like he doesn't go to things, he doesn't seek things out, he lets things happen. So this girl comes to him, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, she might be interesting to kill," but he wasn't going out looking for someone specific to kill. It's like she showed up in front of him and now she is his target.
Agreed. It. You're right. It's so well put together. Like
Yeah.
it just emphasizes what I was saying there. So he kind of agrees to be her boyfriend. Sorry, is the premise of this show is where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And in his mind, he's just trying to get the opportunity to kill her. This is a way to get close to her. And so they cut to the most awkward makeout scene on
Yeah,
television.
She's
he
just
looks
like eating
awful.
his face, and he's just like,
And then like
Yeah.
she like
It looks awful.
forces
And then,
his
yeah,
hand onto the boob.
And you see like it's like the
it was like Forrest
burnt
Gump
hand?
level
Yeah.
awkward, right? What the fuck happened to your hand? Shut up. And like that's it. But in all of their interactions, as they're doing it, that's his level of interaction. It's never been more than like 2 words, right? Which is something that you'll see as it goes on. As you can tell, I might be quite into the show more than I thought.
Yep.
I'm just,
"Ooh,
oh,
ooh."
someone has a crush.
oh yeah, well, that's just weird. They're kids. Lame ass scene where they are walking up the street describing how they both hate phones. It was just lame. Sorry, I don't have a lot to say on that one. And
I thought it was
neither of them don't. It was cute. It was
Because
cute.
the thing is, I mean, you get the sense that like he's either going to open up to this girl. Something is going to happen, right? Like he's gonna realize he has some kind of real human connection to her, as opposed to just like she is just a target, which is his initial thought, right? So this is foreshadowing, like you kind of see her breaking down his boundaries just a little bit, right? Even if he doesn't realize.
But she's
it.
also just like trying to be like she's trying to like rile him up. And she's kind of be like, well, you're not gonna be able to call me and whatever. And then he's just like, okay.
Because she's trying to act like the like standoffish girlfriend, like make him jealous. She doesn't realize that he doesn't really possess the capability to be jealous.
Yeah.
And then
so I enjoyed the scene.
But my favorite part of that whole thing just was at the end when he's like, I guess I'm supposed to ask her on a date. Do you want to go on a date? And
with me?
Yeah. And then boom, we're in a date now, right? And so.
Like an American-style diner.
And so she asked the waitress if the Flyers' claim of the top 10 best American dining experiences was actually true.
In the south of London or something? South England?
Yeah. And
the waitress kind of goes, yeah, sure.
And then
it probably is. There's not that many.
And then, like, she orders a bunch of stuff, like, whatever desserty crap, and the waitress makes, like, a snide comment about how it's, like...
But she doesn't even make a snide comment. Like, she makes, like a friendly joke. And this girl just, like, hates friendliness. Like, she's not into it.
I interpreted it more like a snide remark.
Well, she was just kind of like, oh, aren't you hungry? And then she was just like...
Fuck you!
But because it was more than aren't you hungry. It was more like, aren't you hungry? You know, there was a certain... aggressiveness to the tone as I perceived it.
Well, not aggressiveness, but a judgment of sorts.
Exactly.
Perhaps.
And so, given the fact that this girl is so insecure, any judgment is obviously going to set her off.
Right.
And so it explains why she reacted. So she does, and then she cusses, and then the waitress kind of makes a big fucking deal about the cussing and how whatever. And then so she's like, fine, I'm going to behave, a big old rant ending on a banana shit. And
she swears a whole bunch. Like, she says, like, okay, fine, I won't swear. I want some fucking banana shit and some fucking pancakes and, like,
Bye AdSense. It's just this episode's done. I mean, it's just fucking done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
well, it's in the title.
I mean, yeah, I know. Some of these topics we choose, it's just like, how the fuck are we supposed to survive? So,
Please still pay us.
Balls to the walls. This is behind that suit fucking explicit version, I guess. So then she starts screaming up for Marvin, and why I noted that is because,
funny scene.
as she bounces out, she's just like, bye, Marvin. And that was really amazing. Funny. And then James, like, notes.
Well, she also says, why don't we see if we can get Marvin out here to make
make some fucking pancakes.
A banana split, you fucking cunt. And, like, she's just like, she just doesn't care.
Can't believe these words are coming out of the 17-year-old girl. Like,
Yeah, and then he just kind of, like, lurks off to, like, he takes a skateboard and just goes.
And then you just see James sitting there the whole time, like, she has some issues. And that was, like, his observation. And then, again, they're walking up the street. Alyssa is very clearly bored, and James,
which is like her default setting, either bored or angry,
like erratic. Like I'd say it's this or this,
yeah.
Right? And James,
she's doing something crazy or she's bored, yeah.
James kind of observes that money makes people feel safe, and she asks him if he's boring. He goes, no. And then the weird old lady walks by, and Alyssa is like, she's the most interesting person ever. She blah, 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 must have had a bunch of abortions, must have this and that's. And
like
she's
some kooky
clearly
old-looking lady.
Like, just based on this initial looking at her, because she has some weird sense of style in terms of giving zero fucks.
She's probably going to come back.
I wouldn't be shocked. And then Alyssa's like, can we go to your house? And she be thinking fucking and shit, and he be fantasizing about killing her, is kind of where we're at right now.
You got a couple of flashes of some pretty gory imagery.
Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot to mention that, but that's part of how they display the thoughts is these visual cues, which is another effective storytelling tool. Look, I've been trying to learn more about what to look for in, like, shows and shit, because Chris put me to shame when we did through the Orville stuff. I'm like, I got to learn a thing or two, so watch
the thing that's cool about comic book shows, too, right, is you can see how they would have been panels in
That's
the actual
interesting. That's
the actual
a really
graphic
good point.
novel, right? Like,
yeah, because it is quite a visual story, even though like there's a lot of
like if you watch something like The Walking Dead or like even something like The Flash, like they'll recreate like point for point exact panels, and it's
that's
really
cool.
cool to see it like that. And I feel like this show you can kind of see it going like that as well. You see the thoughts, and you
know
see it
what?
go from panel to
That
panel.
totally explains the formatting.
Yeah.
What I was
And why it
describing
flows
before.
so quickly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
Syd is the Rosetta Stone. So
It's
then,
the nicest thing he said to me in the last 10 minutes.
that's possibly true, but I haven't said much about you. No offense. So she be thinking. So his house is weird.
It is weird. It
And
looks
it's
like
got
a
lots
little
of like
factory
windows or
something.
whatever. Like they just kind of randomly built this shit as needed, and then
The
she
British people
comments
don't
on
know how
it,
to build.
and it has too many windows. And then they go inside, and some ominous music kind of builds up as they approach it, and it builds up to like fucking nothing. She just walks in and throws her bag down, and she looks all mad comfortable and does like what every girl I've ever brought home has ever done. Just walked around and looked at stuff. And then she sees a pic. Well, it's true. It's like
We all
walking.
do this apparently.
I mean,
Go
I
in.
do it when I walk into a new place. It's fucking, yeah.
I'm not like, it's just what I meant was this is the context of literally he brought a girl home, so it was
Yeah,
it was,
she's checking it out the place.
and she's looking into him. Is that your mom? I think is what happens.
And he's like, no, my mom's in Japan.
And like right
or
away, I was
something.
like, "That's a lie."
Yeah, and so then she like goes out, and then all of a sudden they're on some swing thing in his backyard, and James clearly doesn't like
Are
it.
you into that?
Yeah.
You're
And,
just like,
and then,
Oh shit.
and it's fine. It's fine.
Uh-oh.
And then flashes back to like this nice moment with his mom, and his head's in her lap while she's on it. So obviously he's got some issues with it related to his mom, but we don't know what it is at all outside of that.
Mhm.
And then
maybe she got chopped up and they got left in a storage container filled with her blood. That's like
perhaps.
Dexter.
And then Alyssa grabs his crotch or towards it, and then he goes, "She's a nymphomaniac." And I was like, that's such a good use of word. It was like his reaction to the situation is hilarious.
It's a bit
to
of
me.
a nymphomaniac.
And then it cuts over to Alyssa. She's going to town on some toast, like buttering it up or whatever. And then the dad gets home. Oh, the
Oh, this is a
hunter
good
has
scene.
arrived. And then as the dad is drinking a beer, he makes a bunch of like awkward comments like, it's a relief that James, and whatever,
But like real dad comments, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like this
Real-
guy is a dad.
Well,
like,
and also it's
he's the-
based off of stuff that he's seeing, right? Like
Yeah.
he's making observations saying
And
like,
then
"Oh, I
he's
never
like,
thought that he would bring a girl home."
And then I never thought he even, and then it just cuts over to possibly the moment of the episode. He's just wanking it, and it's
But it
appropriate
looks
to say
like
wanking here.
it looks so like
And-
boring.
And he's just like, I do it once a week for like medical reasons.
because he knows it's bad to
he
like
doesn't wanna
build
let
up.
it- yeah,
And that's just like,
which is true, kids.
it is. It is. But, anyway, it's just like, and then it cuts back, and then she like twists the whole thing and puts him in his place, as the young folk are prone to do.
But the thing is, you have to understand, like the dad is digging himself a hole, right? Like he's like,
Yeah.
not that it'd be a problem if he was gay. I just maybe thought he was gay, and I know, he might not be. It's cool, but like that kind of sputtering.
Yeah,
and, like,
and then
then-
she's just like, maybe he's asexual.
and
maybe I'm gay.
And then
There's a lot to like, there's a broad spectrum
we are
to
dealing
deal
with a really broad spectrum these days. And then
really
the
enjoyed
dad
that.
just looks so confused. He looks like your typical dad would look in that moment when
Yep.
a teenage girl put you in your place and you just sit there confused. That was the embodiment of that scene.
Yep.
Then they're on a roof all of a sudden. She's like, your dad's a prick. He expresses his desire to punch him in the face. She's like, you should do that. And then immediately after, she's like, have you ever eaten a pussy? And he's like, in moments like this, you must show like confidence or whatever. And he's like, yeah, a few.
no, he says two. He says two.
Oh, is it two? I
Yes.
heard a few.
Oh.
It's important to note that he says two.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And he
Okay.
says, and
Okay.
then he goes,
Okay.
now? And she goes, no, tomorrow at 11. And then she leaves and just abruptly gets up and leaves. And you're
Yep.
just like, now that you're saying it like a comic book, I'm picturing it like a comic book because I'm reading this, and it's totally playing out in a cooler way.
And the other thing that's important to recognize is like just his character evolution, right? Like he has not only studied people and their habits, like he's studied romance clearly, right?
Yeah.
Like he's studied how to woo a woman if one day he needs to woo her so he can kill her. Like
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Just to bring that to the next point. So he's sitting on the couch waiting for her, and he like packs his knife under, and he's like ready at 10, and he's all nervous. And you know what? I just had to
he
say,
keeps like moving the
I-
knife behind which pillow, like he's not sure.
Yep.
like I can remember at the very early parts of my dating life when I
When
like
you had to hide knives and you weren't sure
exactly.
where to hide them.
but like just the part where like somebody might show up at like 11, so
Yeah.
at like 8 o'clock you're sitting there. And you know that you
Yep.
could watch a whole movie and still have time to get ready, but instead you do nothing.
But
for
like you
3
might like change your shirt a couple times. Like, is this the right
So,
shirt?
Yep.
Am I
and-
gonna like?
And the fact is he basically played out that whole scene. Only for him, it was the part where his excitement at the idea of killing her is motivating him to be so fucking normal. It's so interesting. I've said that a few times. I know it's not a great choice of words at this point. So yeah, let's say it was pretty funny. And then we see instantly again we're over her. She's reflecting on the day, worrying about ruining things, but she kind of
No, it's the next.
Oh, sorry,
it's
you're
the
right,
next
the
day.
next
It's the next morning.
But no, she was reflecting on the previous day
Yeah.
as it's like playing over little snippets. She's like kind of worried about ruining things, and then she feels safe around him. And then her mom walks in.
Well, no, she says that she feels like comfortable and safe around him, and then like you see like a cut shot of him like sharpening his knife.
Right.
And then like it comes back to her.
Yeah, and then the mom walks in with like an outfit, and she's like, "No, I told you I'm heading out." She's like, "We're not having this conversation again. Blah blah blah. You have to do it."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I'm leaving. I'm not doing this party thing." And then the mom guilts her. And then the next thing we see she's like a butler of sorts, and she's holding
She's,
this
like,
food
holding
tray at a party,
But just kind of like
eating them. And then
her mom comes gives her shit for
yeah,
it.
and
you're
so
supposed to be giving those to the guests.
So
But,
she
like-
just kind of becomes an impromptu waitress.
yeah, so you shows like her role in the new family dynamic that is been previously
Oh.
touched upon.
Did we
She's just
mention
like
she
the
has
help.
2 little?
Oh yeah, no,
baby.
we neglected to mention that she has the 2 little
Siblings.
Yeah, 2
siblings from
twins.
like whatever. So there's the Golden family, and then there's her.
Yeah.
So she's clearly
She's
being
from like the
pushed,
ex, and then like her mom is living a new life with this guy and their babies, and everything's so perfect and da da da.
and then because of that, she lets it happen as he gets pushed off.
But it's also you get the sense that this guy's a little bit abusive too, right?
Yeah.
Like you see the mom kind of like
he doesn't give her a chance to talk like at
right,
all.
and she kind of like she gives that like sullen like put upon wife look where she's just like she can't really say anything otherwise he'll leave type thing. Like that's the impression you get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
definitely.
yeah.
And then
too bad.
it's just it looks like it's gonna get real fucked up by the like 6th episode or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then so we see she goes inside. She's getting she's in the fridge, and the stepdaddy shows up, gives her a beer, tells her to chill out. So she kind of mocks him and chills out.
Right.
And like how
Uh,
much she like hates like this life and hates everything and whatever.
And then he's like, you know
But
what?
like telling directly him like your life is bullshit.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, if you don't like it, you can do us all a favor and you can just leave. And then he like stares at her ass, makes a comment.
He says like you look good when you get dressed up or
Yeah.
something like that.
And then he puts his hand on like the small of her back.
Super inappropriately.
and like
then-
kind of like squeezes her, and like you just kind of like you're like ugh, like this guy like, and like is he doing it, like is he being creepy on purpose to like push her out,
Or does he try
Or-
to
I think
get
he's just
that?
creepy.
or is
And-
he just doing it because he's like
And
I
you
think-
turn around and there's that look, right? There's the mom, and she like
just-
there's the recognition, like I know this is happening.
No,
I'm
but
ignoring
what's
it, like
and then what's really fucking interesting was the song choice in the immediate next scene as she's standing on the balcony like looking over, having just had that scene, and it's that I learned the truth at 17 that
Yeah.
love was meant for beauty
Oh,
queens.
yeah.
And so the choice of that song in that moment for that girl watching her mom live the beauty queen life,
but it also like I don't know, I think it really
It was
sucks
layered.
when like
like an onion.
yeah, I mean I do think it's really shitty when like somebody that that is supposed to love you and like kind of turns a blind eye when like this kind of stuff is happening, and like
Yeah.
you see that in like stories and you hear about it in real life, when people are just like when they see like something that's really quite inappropriate, like she's probably like 17, right?
yeah.
And this guy maybe
And his stepdaughter
yeah,
also.
and
Like this is Woody Allen level fucked up.
yeah, and then it's just like she sees it and doesn't say anything, like even to like just like acknowledge the fact that this happened, like would be like something.
But
I
she
don't know.
can't admit it happens because then her entire life is whatever. So you kind of have to.
It's like she just
You-
puts on blinders.
You
Yeah,
watch. It's the
exactly.
kind of life where you know that woman might probably, and if not already, is gonna introduce the painkillers at some point to repress her emotions.
Maybe.
And I'm not trying to like stereotype it. It's just more if you look at her, she's clearly being forced to suppress what's really happening to exist, which is kind of what leads people to stuff like painkillers.
But what's also, and I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like this
Or
guy
alcohol.
is being set up as one of the main villains
Absolutely.
of the
Yeah,
series.
yeah, for sure.
So like, there's gonna be
and like the resentment, the reason why like she doesn't want to go
just
back.
In
or
general,
whatever.
everything about him's a creeper, and you get the. I think the part where it's so creepy is the sense of realism that comes attached to it. Like this is a no holds barred, we're laying it out proper show. Like you're meant to feel squeamish watching it happen, and you do. Like you just anyway. It was really well executed as a scene. Anyway, I'm very curious to see where they take that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's standing on that balcony. She's looking over this family she's no longer a part of. She kind of muses a bit, and then it just kind of culminates to, you know what? Fuck this shit.
Yeah.
And that's when you remember she's a teenage girl. And it was very, like, bold, like, just so grandiose, and she, like, storms off. And then she leaves, and in the middle of this, we know that 10 o'clock has come and gone, or 11 o'clock has come and gone on
it's already,
James's end.
and he's
noon.
like, I almost didn't think she would come.
And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang on the door. And she's like, let me in. And then she's like, being angry and sad makes her horny.
Like, she walks in, rips her shirt off, and sits on the couch. It's
And
just
then
like,
he fantasizes about a bloody knife, and
Yep.
she muses about love and shit.
But like
classic Shakespeare.
like if he was gonna do something, she's sitting there like this, like with her neck all exposed and like her shirt's off, and so like everything here is all exposed. Like if he had really wanted to do something,
No,
he would have
I
done
He
it.
thought
then.
about it, right? He was like, should I turn her over? But
So,
then that kind of fucks up the
I
angle, because
still
this way
think-
her neck is
Yeah.
exposed.
I still think this is playing up a little bit on some jokes here. So in that moment, if you've never really been with a girl before, and you are, even if you're experienced, if you're not comfortable in the moment, and you've sat there and you know you should kiss a girl, and then you sit there for 4 hours and don't do it, and it's kind of awkward, and you just kind of freeze up. And so in the end, what ends up happening is she's sitting there with her neck open, metaphorically speaking, and
Right.
you sit there like, and in her head, she's going, why isn't he kissing me? And you're going, I should probably do it. And that's kind of how that played
Right.
out, only they flipped it into him wanting to kill her.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out too the fact that he is also like, and you get this later on a little bit, right? He's thought about the evidence. He's thought about how to not pin the murder back to him. So if he does that right there in his house where there's blood on the couch, like he
This
can't
is-
really.
But this is like a lust thing, right? I think this is how he manifests his lust.
I think that he just wants to I think he's probably researched how to be a psychopath, right? And he's trying to like do all these right things, and he's thinking about that so much, and he's so dedicated to that thought that he can't see that there's a naked girl sitting on his damn
Yeah.
couch.
And-
I do agree that it's probably a parallel to lust, and that's the imagery.
but I
they're
think
going
it's
for.
actually a manifestation. So if I'm gonna like hazard a guess as to how this plays out without having seen it, it's that like it's how his puberty is kicking in and it's playing out. So what really is he should be mounting that, and instead he is desiring to slice it open, and that is kind
It's
of
the eloquence of the way you speak.
Yo, bro, that's just what happens. So as they're kind of going on and their little double ideas are playing, he grabs the knife. Then she decides they need to leave the town, take the car, etc. And then ultimatums him with like, you're gonna come with me. And then you can hear the thought voice going, please say yes. Or-
Right.
Yeah.
And then she grabs her shirt and they bounce out. He grabs the knife, stashes it.
And then
As they leave, they see the dad walking up.
with like a big bag of groceries and a huge smile
He's
on
like,
his face, like,
"Hey!" And then James just decks him in the face.
Yeah, gives him a big
And
punch.
proceeds to get in the car. And
So basically, they steal the car.
yeah.
I didn't know where they were going or when he would kill her, but this was the next logical move, and they drive off. So if you think about it, it's like he was a good kid for all terms and purposes. He met a girl, got enamored, and now he's making stupid, irrational choices. This is a cliche trope retold in the most unique way I have ever seen. So for that, kudos to this motherfucking thing. So she asked if he's scared. He admits he is a little bit. She says, I'm not. He thinks
she should be.
probably should be, and it ends. And my main thought on this show is, what the fuck did I just watch?
Nah.
It's not like
It's very unique.
It's pretty unique.
Like, having had this conversation, I am totally sold on this show, actually. But
Yeah.
up until we had this conversation, I was sitting there all day going, do I like this? Is this good? Is this bad?
I liked
I
it.
don't know how to
mean-
interpret this.
For me, I did find it really funny. There were a couple of moments where there were a few moments where I laughed out loud. I know you guys said, we were speaking off camera, you said you didn't really get the same reaction.
I was, I guess I was so...
I just thought it was smartly done. Like, I just
Yeah.
was,
Oh, very intelligent.
like, it's
But-
quirky. It's a quirky show, but, like, in a dark way.
So this show completely, like...
But it's like, it's not as dark as a show about a serial killer could be, or not a serial killer, but about
It's
a
like a
psychopath could
happy
be, right?
serial
Yeah,
killer.
it's a kind of a fluffy, like, it's a romance tale, it's a coming of age tale, but the kid just happens to be a psychopath and wants to kill someone.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just so caught up on how well it was done, the layering of it, and I guess there was so much to keep me focused on, and it was so well put together that I don't really felt like it was jokes as much as I was just along on a ride. And then the episode ended, and I'm just like, whoa. And then, like, as you rethink it through after, but it packs in a lot. This is... Not only is this show something I would continue watching at this point, I would watch it again in 6 months, and maybe like when season 2 comes out. I'm certain if it comes out, I'm being optimistic at this point. Maybe it sucks later on.
Maybe it
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah.
Maybe it ends.
Or
Because it's a
or
graphic
not.
novel, it probably ends.
Yeah.
Or Netflix does Netflix and does what Netflix does. But all I'm saying is I would hope it continues based on how much I'm already digging it,
Yeah.
and it's a really strong pilot
What
as
I
far
like
as
to say
pilots
too,
go.
is a lot of times pilots like they're faced with the awkward task of having to like introduce the characters, right? So a lot of the time you get like, this is X, this is Y, my roommate, this is Z, my cousin, and the introductions just feel like normal people don't do that.
Yeah.
But this episode really introduced the characters properly. Like, it didn't feel awkward. It didn't feel forced. It was like, this is just a moment in their lives.
You know, it was more than that. It was that most times there's no plan for how to introduce the characters, and they wrote the character introduction into the story exactly like the rest of the story is told. Whereas in the way you're describing it often, it's almost like it feels like a prelude, as opposed to this felt like we started chapter 1, page 1, and we were already there.
Right.
And like,
but what I mean is, like, sometimes it's like, this is the funny guy. This is the serious guy.
Yeah.
This is the narcissist. This is the token chick. Like, you know what I mean?
I
But, like,
find that that's rarer, so bluntly put. But yeah, it kind of everybody has their little moves that play out.
Yeah.
But this, it was more like literally, there's no other way the show could have spun out without, this is James, and here's why. But it's not like this is James. It's James is just talking to himself, which is actually both of them display certain behaviors that would make them the type of people to. So it's like you're getting to know James, Alyssa, the voice in James's head and the voice in Alyssa's head all at the same time.
But at the beginning, I don't think they say this is James. I think they
No,
say
he's
there
saying
like,
it,
he's
I
like,
am James.
I'm James, but so
But it
he's
says on
starting
the
to tell the
screen-
story.
It says on the screen James, so like in that way the show was communicating this is James. Like it was kind of both at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I fucking love this. I think it is worth your time.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the end of the fucking world.
Yeah. Go
Get
check
it?
it out.
it's cool. We're going to do episode 2 soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.